We continue our focus on the U.S. election with a look into the prospective new administration led by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If they win, we're now joined by Alethea Bonello, Director of Programs at the African American Center for Global Politics in Atlanta in the state of Georgia. A very good evening to you, Alethea. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time this evening. And perhaps then, if we were to start this conversation over here, looking at Kamala Harris running in these elections, what has this meant for particularly women of color in this race?
We're excited for the representation of Senator soon-to-be Vice President Kamala Harris, that a black woman who has done so much in the country and particularly her state of California can now ascend to the vice presidency and represent women of all color and truly women, because black women want what all women want: safety for their children, education and health, and a myriad of other. And I believe that Vice President Kamala Harris will be a wonderful representative and be a voice in the administration.
Now, the question there becomes, and we've seen a huge number of black voters turning out in this particular election, but some are saying that the vote is not necessarily a vote for Biden, rather it's a vote against Donald Trump. What do you make of that assessment?
We've heard both, but certainly I know for the people that I spoke with that the Biden-Harris team had a platform. They had a vision for America, and people resonated with their vision. There are those, of course, that did vote, in effect, an anti-Trump vote, but in many respects, many minorities, many people did actually vote for Biden.
And when you look at, the fact that there have been some controversy when it comes to her own, race in this particular election, there's also been, talk of how in 2015 she did not support, efforts to ensure that police officers are investigated, particularly for some of, those crimes that are said to have, committed at the time. Some have called her, someone that could put the lives of black men at risk. Is this something that you do agree with, particularly when you look at also that marijuana legislation that she then passed?
I think a person's record shows the evolution of who they were and who they are. And for all the disparaging notions that people have attacked Kamala Harris's criminal justice record, she was a proponent of single women. She was a proponent of children being able to go to school and make it out of their situations. And she will continue to be an advocate for criminal justice reform.
Much of criticism is always anticipated, more especially in the political sphere. However, then when we're looking at how women are represented on that particular sphere, it's as if they need to work much more harder with regards to really showing their capabilities in their fields. However, then, one can also arguably say that her running in these elections has challenged many stereotypes within the black community, particularly women, that is. Why is that representation so important? It's 2020, and we're still having these conversations of trying to bring black women onto the table, and it's seemingly a continuous fight.
As you said, I think it's very important that we are in the room at the table so people can see examples of black excellence, that it can eradicate these assumptions, rumors, and falsehoods and stereotypes about this so-called angry black woman, someone who is too aggressive, but rather we are so passionate about the issues that matter to us. And we simply want to be at the table to affect change to make it better for our community. So I'm excited that the country and the world will see an African-American, Jamaican-American, South Asian American woman that represents so many aspects of the American dream, to be able to sit at the table, share with her people the perspective, and be able to be an advocate for us in the highest levels.
Now, Alethea, when you look at, what you've just said now, particularly about her having a seat at the table and sharing and partaking in those crucial discussions, would you say America's ready for a female president?
I'm sorry, it cut out. I didn't hear the last part of it.
Would you say America is ready for a female president?
They may not be ready, but I think this train is out the gate and it's coming. So the great thing is with both Biden and Harris, they have worked in federal government. They have represented their states respectively and worked with these senators. And so we hope that this translates. As Vice President Harris will be the deciding vote in the Senate if there is a tiebreaker that needs to be conducted, as well as Biden has worked with several of these senators, including Senator Mitch McConnell. So we hope their experience and their relationships will be able to translate not into a divisive government, but rather that we can work together and have one vision for the United States.
Now, we've seen Georgia, which is traditionally a red state, turning blue, although the total tally of the final tally of the votes has not come in yet. How has this been received on the ground in Georgia, and particularly given the fact that, as my colleagues have said, you've seen the high number of black voters turning up for this election?
Thank you so much for this question. It allows me to first pause and thank all the people. We've heard Stacey Abrams getting some recognition, but it was a coalition. We're grateful for the work of Pro Georgia and Tamika Akins. We have Deborah Scott from Georgia Stand Up and Helen Butler from the People Coalition of Georgia, along with the NAACP and National Action Network. So many organizations, organizers who have been working beyond 2020 to be able to see this come to fruition. And so we are elated about the results. Imagine before March 2020, no one ever considered Georgia to become a blue state. And then when it came into play, it turned around. People got excited and even more energized towards the end of the election cycle. And here we are with Biden in the lead. What does that mean for people who feel voiceless and disenfranchised for so long, fighting these laws that when they have a chance to exercise their right to vote, that they can not only change a state, but they can change a nation? That's powerful.
And perhaps then when we're also going back to the issue of black women who've now sort of invested their votes with regards to picking Biden and Kamala Harris to represent them, it's pretty much really going to take a lot more than talk. Issues in America will have to be dealt with on a much deeper scale. And when we're looking at the marginalization of black women in the states, whether it's healthcare, business, politics, even in the churches, they remain at the bottom of the food chain pretty much. How do we then prevent her voice from being absolved from all the other voices, that of a black woman in that position, and having her voice carry a much even larger weight?
I think that she will be supported by the Congressional Black Caucus, along with, again, the many organizations I recognize, along with Melanie Campbell. There are so many women. We are a spiritual group of people, and we know how to support our black women and each other. And so she will not only have that spiritual support, but she will also have that accountability, that we will be there to protest in the streets, protest in the courts, protest at the ballot box. If we feel in another 2 years there needs to be another shift, that we are energized that we can make that shift happen. To be honest, that the black woman has been the backbone of the Democratic Party. And so it is time for us not only to have Kamala Harris in the place that she is, but also to keep the feet to the fire and hold individuals and politicians accountable for where they are. We do need to see more return on the investment that we've already made in America, because we love America and we want America to succeed. We just want America to love us back.
And Alethea, when you look at, President Donald Trump, his timeline is quite busy now. He's tweeting up a storm again. And one of the things that he said is that where are the missing military ballots in Georgia? What happened to them? And even before then, he was talking about with the attack by the radical left Dems on the Republican Senate, the presidency becomes even more important. What do you make of how he has positioned himself in terms of his posture and language, particularly after, we saw Joe Biden come out to speak first as we're starting to see the results trickling?
I was disappointed in the language, the posture that was made. It did not seem to be very presidential. I, as I said before, am grateful to all the election workers, the poll workers, everyone that's been involved in this process. It has truly seemed to be one of the most seamless elections that we've had in the midst of a global pandemic. And yet people kept their calm. People did what they were instructed to do. And we were able to, and we've been patient, waiting for the process to roll out. We're so used to those unofficial election night results that we receive, but this is the process that has gone on for many, many years. So peace and patience is important. And I did not hear enough of that in President Trump's rhetoric. So I do hope that we won't be inundated with frivolous lawsuits that we've seen. The lawsuit that was filed here in Georgia has been dismissed. There have been a couple of other cases that have been dismissed in other states, although he still has several out there in Nevada, I believe, and Pennsylvania. But I think it's important to stay presidential. Just as you came in, you want to leave with your head held high. And so we hope that it will not devolve any further. Rather, we hope that we will continue to see peace in America, that, as your commentator discussed earlier, that the Proud Boys and other entities won't be riled up and cause harm. Because honestly, I believe America is showing itself to be American overall. And we don't want these reflections that you've shown on this program to make people believe that that is what the majority of Americans are thinking or saying or doing.
All right. Well, Alethea, thank you so much for your time and for joining us. Well, I'll leave that conversation over there, but we do really appreciate your sentiments on that. That was Alethea Bonello, the Director of Programs at the African American Center for Global Politics in Atlanta.